What's going on, everybody? This is Economic News Insights, and today we're going to talk about why income is higher for some demographics of foreigners who come into the United States over the average American. You guys have probably seen this statistic that's out there. I mean, it's pretty well known, it's documented that the median household income in the United States by ethnic group is quite higher for some migrant groups, such as Indian Americans. They earn $100,000 per year for the average median home price, whereas the average American, or it's kind of divided by whether you're Caucasian or Hispanic or African American, but the average American is $56,000 for the average median house price or income. So you can see that Indian people, immigrants into the United States, earn about almost double what the average American earns in the United States. Filipino Americans, they make 83,000, Taiwanese 82,000, Sri Lankans 74,000, Japanese 72,000, Malaysians 70,000, Chinese 70,000, Pakistanis 66,000. The average white American house or person makes about $60,000 per year. The average Hispanic 43,000, the average African American about 35,000. So you can see it varies also depending on the ethnicity of the American, but on average, it's about $56,000. And we're going to talk about what could be causing this. Why do Americans who are born in the United States earn less than foreigners who are coming into the United States, considering that, if you're a natural born citizen, you're going to have more benefits, you would think, right? So the very first thing that you need to talk about is when immigrants are brought into the country, especially legally, they have a system that prioritizes highly skilled people. So they're looking for highly educated, highly skilled immigrants to come into the United States. So people from India that are coming, we're not getting like the average Indian, we're getting high skilled Indian immigrants to come into the country through the H-1B visas. You also have STEM degrees, tech skill requirements, professional experience. And this is what we're looking for when we're bringing in people. That's why it's really important to make sure we're bringing in legal immigrants also, right? Because then we can bring in the other country's best people into the country. One thing I would say that this really says about the United States in general is that the United States is a great place for immigrants and for anyone really who's looking to, get ahead in life. This is a thing that's really important to point out because some people are concerned about America bashing. But one thing we have to say is there's no better place in the world right now, probably, than the United States to be an immigrant in a foreign country. Australia and Canada are pretty good, but I still think the United States is a little bit ahead of them, right? So you also have high representation in high paying industries like tech, right? You have medicine, academia, and finance. Like when they come over here, they're working in high academic or high paying industries. Many immigrants also have high education and work ethic. So they come over here with this attitude, this drive. They come in here with a lot of just perseverance. They're coming in with certificates, education. They've already shown that they're highly motivated people, whereas the average American might not be as highly motivated. They're kind of complacent. One thing I've seen recently with people in the US is they're so distracted by conspiracy on TikTok or Instagram. They're so caught up in celebrity gossip. What did Kim Kardashian wear to the Grammys? Where's Britney Spears been? Or they're paying attention to their favorite sports, and that's fine. But I think it distracts people from being able to really dial it in. Like you don't hear these people from foreign demographics worrying about trivial celebrity gossip like that, right? So this is something that I think you have to kind of look at people and say, dude, if you spend as much time building a business or focusing on your career or opportunities and less time on conspiracy, less time on these things that are taken away from what you should be focused on. I think that this is something that we should be talking about is less time on conspiracy, less time focused on celebrity gossip. Like we get it. Kim Kardashian, Diddy, we got it. Do we really need to be spending so much time thinking about that or trying to be an internet sleuth and trying to understand what's going on with all of that, right? No, we don't really. I'm just trying to fix the lighting in here. By the way, thank you to the people who are smashing up the likes as you're coming in on this live stream. We are a new channel, Economic News Insights. Thank you to everyone who subscribes and keeps up with us as we continue to have this conversation. So, another thing is those immigrants, they take calculated risk and they're more driven to succeed. Unlike native born citizens, they choose to be move for better opportunity and they work to maximize it, right? So, they're always trying to really dial in where they should live, why they should live there, where they should open up a business. Another thing is with entrepreneurship, immigrants are twice as likely to start a business in the US. If you go into like Michigan, you'll notice who owns all the convenience stores in Detroit, right? Who owns all the convenience stores in Brooklyn? And that's just one example, but entrepreneurship, specific industries in particular, who owns those, who controls those? And if you're a native born, you can say, oh well, they shouldn't be doing this, or you could be jealous of them, or you could say, well, hey, what's stopping you? You have to look at yourself and say, what's stopping you from actually getting into that industry, or what's stopping your peers from getting into that industry? So I don't think it's really too productive to blame the immigrant groups who are coming here just taking advantage of the situation that they're allowed to take advantage of, which is through immigration, right? So, in construction, for example, like I lived in Arizona, they were building a ton of houses, and I noticed that when you went out to one of those job sites, the whole work crew out there was listening to mariachi music, like not like La Cucaracha, but like it was definitely Latino music. And you walked around, everyone was speaking Spanish. You could even say, you speak English, you speak Spanish, habla español. And everyone there was speaking Spanish. Where were all the gringos? Where's all the Americans? Where's all the Americans on that job site? They weren't there because they don't want to work in the heat. You go out to a farm, who's picking all the fruit, or who's the boss cleaning all that up, And so it's just because Americans don't want to do those jobs, and the foreigners, they end up taking over, and then they end up taking over the farm. And then everyone's like, oh, how did they end up being a foreigner who took over the farm? Well, because they earned their keep. They worked their way up in the industry. So Americans aren't really so willing to like start at the bottom and work their way up. I think that's really important. Everyone wants to start in America. Everyone wants to go to college and become a white collar bureaucrat, right? Not everyone, but we have a lot of that going on. That was going on, especially in the 90s and the early 2000s. Everyone wanted to go to college so that when they got out of college, they got right into the executive position. Nobody wanted to wear the blue collar and go through the hard work. I always said when I was in the military, the best leaders were probably the ones that started at the blue collar level and then worked their way up to the khaki, which was eventually towards the white collar, which would be an officer. So someone who came in as enlisted and then developed and became an officer over time. Those were always like the best leaders. The problem is some of those had a little bit more hot-headedness than someone who went to college. They had a little bit more fire inside of them, so they were a little bit more intense. But really, they're really good leaders. I mean, if you look at Michael Jordan with the Bulls, the way that he played basketball, everyone said he was a jerk. I mean, if you look at Bill Gates, when they said that the way he built Microsoft, they said he was a jerk. I mean, usually leaders are not the nice guys on the field. They're not your best friends. They're very serious. I remember one of the gunners that I had in our shop. I would say he didn't have the best social skills, but he was a great leader. So people just let him because of the way his work. He would work circles around everyone else. Thank you to everyone who's smashing up the likes as we continue to get this conversation out there. But I'd be interested to hear from you guys in the comments why it is that so many foreign groups come into the United States, in particular from Asia, and they make more than the average American in the US who was born here should have all of the opportunities. It's one thing for them to come in and then equal, but the fact that they're not just equaling, they're sometimes doubling what the average American makes. I had a conversation with a young man when I was down by Arizona State University, and I said, how is it working with the young kids? And he said, one of the interesting things that he said that it seems like the dumb are getting dumber and the smart are getting smarter. So he's noticing, like, you could almost say that the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. But really what he was noticing was like the people who were just like not going to do anything, they were just slacking off and they were just getting dumber with time. But the ones who were really in college for the right reasons, they were just getting smarter and smarter beyond what we had seen in previous generations. So he thinks that, the smarter getting smarter, the dumber getting dumber. And there's no real middle ground. I'm sure there is a middle ground, obviously, but he made that comment, and I thought, well, yeah, that kind of would make sense. How people are coming in, with this intense drive, and they're really doing a great job with it. So something to consider. But as we continue to look in the data here, I mean, depending on where you get it, it's mostly Indian and Chinese immigrants have extremely high rates of STEM and advanced degrees. Uh, so I would be interested to hear what you guys say. Let's see what STEM education. If you guys don't know what that means, that's science, technology, engineering, mathematics. Uh, so that's like the high earning areas. Like computer science would be something that would be associated with like engineering. I mean, if you look at some of the top companies in the United States, Microsoft, led by an Indian American CEO. Google, led by an Indian American CEO. If you look at, let's see here, NVIDIA, I believe he's Taiwanese American. So it seems like a lot of the leadership is also foreign born. So, I think Americans are just going to have to realize like something's going on. It's a cultural thing. It's a cultural thing because even if you look at the NBA, for example, who are the best uh, basketball players? A lot of them are foreign born. I mean, especially when it comes to the white guys in the league. I mean, when was the last time you saw like an American born white dude who like is doing great? I mean, it's Luka Doncic, Nikola Jokic. Why is that? Why isn't it like, even Steve Nash, you would think he was American. Actually, he was South African and Canadian. Even look at Elon Musk. He's South African American. So it just seems like immigrants coming into the country are just coming in with the right attitude. So I think it starts with the culture. I think it starts with the mentality here in the United States. What is causing it for immigrant groups to come in and just make so much more than the average American? You know, so interesting. Anyways, I just wanted to have this conversation. See you guys on the next one from Economic News Insights.